Are Okay by Nina LaCour. This is a young adult novel about a college freshman dealing with grief and depression. Right before she graduates high school, her grandfather, who raised her, passes away. So she sort of spirals into grief. She cuts all of her friends out of her life, and she moves to college across the country early and basically just starts over and is sad and mopey. So the plot is that her best friend, Marin is the main character's name, and Mabel is her best friend. So her best friend Mabel from high school is coming over during Christmas break to spend some time with her and to reconnect. They haven't talked in, seems like a few months. Marin hasn't been answering any of her texts or calls. That's the sapphic relationship in this book. You find out that not only are they friends, they were sort of friends with benefits in a situationship. And then they moved across the country. Marin moved to New York, and Mabel now lives in Los Angeles. So Mabel has flown 3,000 miles to spend Christmas with Marin, who is not even talking to her. But she does this because she knows Marin is grieving and wants to be there for her and wants her to open up and share and rejoin the living world. This book's kind of boring. Not a lot happens because it is just Marin being mopey. The conflict is very internalized. It's a very introverted book. She's just kind of thinking about how sad she is. There's not a lot of plot happening. She's like, Mabel's gonna come, and then I have to host her. I feel obligated to host her, and then she's gonna leave, and then I can go back to doing absolutely nothing. And then Mabel comes, and they do basically nothing. So the story is partially flashbacks. You get flashbacks to her life in high school when her grandfather was alive. Those get more interesting as time goes on. I did not get into this book at first. Again, it's very sort of slow and boring and internal. And there's just no like action going on. There's not like a plot line in the past either. It's just sort of context that helps you get to know these characters and understand where they came from and how Marin and Mabel's relationship used to be. I recommend reading the text. I read this on audiobook, and sometimes I couldn't tell when the flashback started. Sometimes I could. Sometimes there were chapter breaks that literally said the month of what we were in. So I knew the time frame, but sometimes there were just like transitions between flashback and present time, and I was mixed up. I assume in the text there would have been like a gap, a break to signalize that we've transitioned into a different time period. But in the audiobook, it wasn't always 100% clear, and I'd get confused about where we were. But it's not that confusing. I didn't get into this until probably like 75% of the way through the book, if I'm honest. Because that was a point where I feel like I really knew these characters. We'd learn some more about the grandfather and Marin's home life. And then it started to feel a bit more concrete, the world did, and less just in Marin's head. Nothing happens in this book. This is too boring. I didn't love this one. The author, in the author's notes, she talks about how she also lost her grandfather, and the dedication was to her grandfather, and she explains in the author's note that this isn't her exact story. It's not autobiographical. The characters are very different in personality-wise, but it still felt like self-serving, like she sort of wrote this therapeutically. Maybe that's presumptuous to say. I don't know her. She didn't say that directly, but you get the vibe that this is sort of based on personal experience, which isn't a bad thing. I'm sure we've all heard the saying, write what you know, and it's fine to be inspired by real life, but it's just like, I don't know. I have a weird thing against that, where it just sort of ruins a book for me, where it's like, I don't know, it kills the creativity. Like, you didn't come to this idea came to you. I don't know. I've just always been like that for some reason. No reason, really. It's not a valid critique, it's just a personal preference. Like, I read Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn years ago, and really liked it, and then I got to the back cover. It's a book about a journalist in Chicago, and then her biography says, Gillian Flynn was a journalist in Chicago, and I'm like, that kills it. It just kills it. It just kills the creativity. Even though, obviously, that book was not her autobiographical experience as a journalist, and I'm sure she just drawed, like, little details from it, but, I don't know, for whatever reason, I hate that. Just personally. I don't hate it, I just dislike it. It felt more like this book was for the author than it was for me. It definitely wasn't for me. This is for, like, sad teenagers. I'm not a sad or a teenager. I didn't, like, love the relationship either. They kind of have good moments. Like, it's sort of romantic that you would fly 3,000 miles to be with this person who stopped talking to you. But it's also like, damn, get a life. I was conflicted about that because on one hand, like, she's obviously depressed and that's why she's shutting people out. And her friends know that. And I'm not a doctor. I don't have knowledge of depression as a medical concept or firsthand experience with that. But I know you're supposed to try to reach out to depressed people, I guess. And Marin's grateful for it, but I just feel like, I don't know, flying 3,000 miles to be with someone who's not talking to you is kind of fucking extra. Like, that's not your responsibility. I mean, she wants to, but also if someone stops talking to you, maybe don't be that needy and clingy. It's not viewed like that in the book. She's seen as a good friend, and, like, you understand the motivations. And it's not like clingy stalker or lover. Mabel actually has moved on. She's met a boyfriend at her college. Since Marin stopped talking to her, you know, she figured she'd move on. And then she figured she'd fly 3,000 miles to not move on. But I guess she's sort of moved on from their romantic relationship. And is still trying to maintain a friendship or some level of closeness because they've been in each other's lives for so long and they don't want to lose each other. They're both good friends and sort of siblings. Like, Marin has a good relationship with Mabel's family as well, so she's sort of really involved with that family and they don't want to lose each other. Mabel doesn't want to lose her, I suppose. And Marin doesn't want to lose her, but she's just like a sad sack, just not even thinking about the future or doing anything. But I was saying I didn't like it. This is me just being prejudiced against everything in this book, just for personal reasons. The scene where you discover that Marin and Mabel were romantically involved was the scene where I decided that I didn't like Mabel. Mabel tells Marin to steal a bottle of her grandfather's whiskey when they're underage, and then they go to the beach and finger each other. So they sneak out with the stolen alcohol, and it's like, Mabel's not a good friend. If your friend tells you to steal your grandparents' alcohol and sneak out of the house, they're not a good friend. They're not looking out for you. They don't care about your well-being. They don't care if you're getting in trouble. They don't care about your health. They're a shitty friend, and they're probably gonna be a shitty partner. So I didn't like that. I'm very anti-alcohol. I don't drink. I would never encourage my friends to steal alcohol. So I didn't like that. That's a classic sign of a shitty friend, even though the book doesn't want her to be a shitty friend. Obviously, the book paints her out as, like, the best friend ever who flew 3,000 miles to come see her. But I was like, that person doesn't care about you. And, God. I'm so tired of underage drinking in young adult novels. I'm so tired of it. Because it's almost never done realistically. And it's so much more common in books and movies than it is in actual real life. In real life, like, 30% or a third of teenagers report underage drinking at some point. And even fewer than that report drinking on any regular basis. And in all of these books, they're always like, yeah, we're always going to a party every weekend, and someone always has, like, vodka and from their parents' cabinet. We're, like, just always drinking, very casual. And I do that in this book, and they talk about that. And it's like, and they talk about starting it when they're, like, 14. I'm like, no, you don't. 14-year-olds do not go to parties and drink every weekend like that. Like, they just don't. Like, this isn't realistic at all. It's just not. it doesn't need to be part of the story. That's not part of the plot at all. They didn't have to steal the whiskey. They didn't have to like just offhandedly mention like, yeah, sometimes we go to parties and drink with our friends. You know how it is. Like none of that has anything to do with the story. It's not realistic. It doesn't add anything to the plot. You could take it out and absolutely nothing would be affected in this book. And it's just there. And I feel like that's like low-key morally irresponsible because it normalizes underage drinking. And it's just like they don't really think about the health consequences. They don't think about getting in trouble. They don't get in trouble. The grandpa catches them and he's just like, don't do that again. Or, oh, there was only a little bit of whiskey in there, so it's not that big a deal. So I feel like this just normalizes drinking culture for kids. Like, kids don't grow up hearing anything about drinking being good for you. Like, we are very specifically taught how bad drinking is for you. And the only way anyone would drink is if it's still normalized like this, where they read a book like this and think, oh, it's not that bad. All these other kids they just go to parties all the time and drink, and it's okay, and they don't talk about any negative effects, and they don't get in that much trouble, and it seems like a normal thing. Like, am I the only 14-year-old that isn't going to parties and drinking? It's like, no, you're not. It's just books aren't real. Stuff like this it's just stupid, and I don't know why it's in there. And it just feels like it's written by adults who don't know how to socialize without alcohol. And they're like, what do kids do? Probably the same as what we do, right? Like, we meet for drinks and hang out. It's like, no, stop. Kids don't do that. They don't do that. I'm so tired. Like, 75% of young adult novels have kids drinking for no reason. And they don't do that. They don't do that. That doesn't happen. I mean, some people do it, but not at the rate that it happens in these books. So I didn't like that. That's my soapbox. I'm so tired. Just unnecessary drinking in books that contribute to normalizing alcohol culture, which is terrible, and especially for kids, it's terrible. Kids who drink young are way more likely to develop substance abuse problems, obviously. It didn't need to be here. It adds absolutely nothing to the story. It normalizes harmful drinking culture to teens who would be reading this, and it makes Mabel look like a jackass who's like, yeah, steal your grandfather's whiskey, what could go wrong? Let's sneak out in the middle of the night with stolen alcohol as we're like 16, what could go wrong? And you don't want Mabel to look like a jackass. She's supposed to be the picture perfect best friend here. So it's like, why do we have that scene? What are we doing? That goes against the goals of the author. So I thought Mabel was a jackass, to be honest. And then, because I thought she was a jackass, I leaned into the like, why are you so desperate for Marin? Like, you flew 3,000 miles to see someone who's not even talking to you. Like, get a life. Like, take a hint. Even though it wasn't supposed to be read that way, and you don't have to read it that way. Because, like, she's trying to help, but it's also not your responsibility to help. You're, like, 18. Oh, yeah, and then at the end of the book, she's with her friends, and they go to a restaurant for, like, Christmas dinner, and they all order champagne or something. I think it's champagne. But they're all 18, maybe 19. And the waiter doesn't card. And they're like, oh, it's Christmas, so they're not gonna card. That's not how the restaurant industry works. That's not how service industry works. You would lose your liquor license. That would be awful. No. I've also started reading another Nina LaCour book. And the exact same thing happens. There's two guys and they go to a gay bar. And they don't get carded, even though he's like 16. The character in the book's like 16. He's like, I look older, so they don't card me. It's like, they're gonna card you until you look like 45, man. That's not how it works. Like, he says, like, he's on the sports team, and some of the guys think he's, like a college-age guy, They want to check that he's actually high school age. But it's like, even if you're in college, you get carded, bro. You don't look that old. If you do, there's something wrong. So it's like, that's stupid, and that's not how alcohol works. So whatever, that's my soapbox. Stop underage drinking. Stop including underage drinking for no reason. In this other Nina LaCour book I'm reading, the one character says he doesn't actually drink. But he didn't get carded for going into the bar, and his friend who's underage orders alcohol. His friend who's underage and looks younger than him just gets them both flutes of champagne. It's like, that's not how that works. You would get carded. And it gives the same excuse. It's like, it's Pride. It's the first day of Pride. They know there's teenagers here. They're not gonna card people. It's like, that's not how that works. They're gonna card you. So whatever. That's my message for authors, is to stop just including underage drinking for no reason. It's like when you watch old movies and everyone's smoking a cigarette just for something to do, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the story, and it's just promoting smoking culture. And then they stopped doing that because they realized it added absolutely nothing to the story, and it was terrible just on a cultural significance level. That's what underage drinking is in all of these fucking books and movies. I'm tired of it. Kids don't do that. Statistically inaccurate. If it's not gonna be like an actual plot point of your book, maybe it doesn't need to be there. Maybe it adds absolutely nothing. I have read one other Nina LaCour book. A couple of years ago, I read Everything Leads to You, which I remember almost nothing about. It's about a young woman who is working as a set designer in Hollywood. I gave that book 3 stars. That's just sort of like a contemporary, forgettable little romance, also queer. This book I gave 2 stars because it was fucking boring. And I didn't like love the characters. Just nothing happens. I don't know. Again, I think a sad teenager might like this book a lot more than me. This book is probably for someone, but it wasn't for me. I think, I don't know. Just a book focused on so much internality, where none of the plot is external really, or not enough of it is external. It's just not particularly gripping to me personally. I didn't care for this. I actually sort of wrote a book not that long ago about a woman dealing with grief, and it is sort of very internal like this. And reading this book made me go, oh, my book is probably shit because this is just fucking boring. This whole concept is just boring. So that book I wrote is staying in the drafts. I don't know if I'm gonna read that back. It probably doesn't deserve to be published. Probably fucking boring. Probably should have read this first and learned my lesson to just not do that. So yeah, this book was so boring that it made me think my book, with a vaguely similar premise, would also be boring. That's how bad this book was. It wasn't awful. It's fine for someone. The writing's not atrocious. There's not a million plot holes. It's readable. It's just not, it wasn't for me. So I gave this 2 stars. I sort of got into it toward the end. So like maybe a 2.5 stars if I wanted to be generous, but I didn't sound very generous in this video, did I? I complained a lot. So I'm probably gonna give it just 2 stars. Just not for me. It's for someone, but it's not for me. I also wanted to talk about, there's like some pretentious lines. It's not that bad. I remember there was a line where they're in a restaurant and they sit down to eat just before closing, and the waiter changed the sign from open to closed. So everyone on the outside, it says closed for, and everyone and them on the inside, it says open for. And she was like noting this and said, if this was a novel, that would mean something. I'm like, that's pretentious. But this character she's an English major, she's really into books, and actually the death of her grandfather kind of stops her reading because like these stories about sadness are suddenly too real, and she doesn't like reading anymore, and she wants to change her major. Her friends are like, no, you're built for this. So she's probably not gonna change her major in the end. So like those sort of pretentious moments are like earned, or like I see the vision, I see the concept. It's not just the author trying to be cheeky. It's literally this character sort of thinks in literary terms like that. There's a couple similar moments where she talks about symbolism, and it's like, okay, she analyzes literature, so she would see the world through that eyes, but I noted that and I was like, cringe. Just a little. I don't know. That's just another complaint. This book was, did I have anything good to say? It was fine. Whatever. The prose is fine. There's no plot holes. That's it. I will read more Nina LaCour books. Will I like them? I don't know. I've got a 3-star read so far and a 2-star read. I'll let you know.